What is up, F and True followers and the members of the YWC? JC Styles here with the F and brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com, and welcome to another WrestleMania Rewind review. Today I have picked out WrestleMania 20, March 14th, 2004, Madison Square Garden, New York City, as one of my second favorite WrestleManias. And this match, this pay-per-view, this WrestleMania was just stacked to the deck, stacked all the way through with so many good matches. And I sat through and I watched every single one of these matches. I did not fast forward through any of them. I did not skim through. It was just such an amazing pay-per-view. I get right into this review for you. First match of the night, we see the Big Show defend his United States Championship against the SmackDown rising star at the time, John Cena. Now, John Cena was becoming very popular over the months. He was part of a big man's tag Survivor Series elimination match with Chris Benoit at the 2003 Survivor Series, which he led his team to victory. Now, in this match, we saw John Cena pick up his very first major WWE championship in the United States Championship, and several weeks later, we saw him convert it into the first ever WWE Spinner Championship. Well, the United States Championship, I should say. Then we go into a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match. We see Rob Van Dam and Booker T defend their Tag Team Championships against La Resistance, the Dudley Boys, and Garrison, Cade, and Mark Jindrak. Now, this was actually a pretty good match. WWE did some really good, innovative stuff with the tag team division years ago. We saw Rob Van Dam and Booker T pick up the win to retain their tag team championships. Then we kind of see a love triangle match between Trish Stratus, and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho and Christian had made a bet that which one of them could sleep with Lita or Trish Stratus the fastest. They bet $1 Canadian that Chris Jericho couldn't sleep with Trish before Christian slept with Lita. Term of events, Trish Stratus found out, but somewhere along the lines, Chris Jericho, quote-unquote, fell in love with Trish, which led them to a match at WrestleMania after Christian violently attacked Trish Stratus during a match that Eric Bischoff had put him into on Monday Night Raw. This matchup, Chris Jericho versus Christian, we saw Christian pick up the win after Trish Stratus inadvertently elbowed Chris Jericho, thinking it was Christian for the win. We saw post-match, we kind of saw Trish trying to consult with Jericho. Jericho didn't want to hear it. She slapped him twice, then got hit with the kill switch, aka the Unprettier at that time. And then we found out, lo and behold, that Trish and Christian were together, and we saw them basically lead out a makeout session on stage, which led to them being kind of a heel couple for quite a couple of months. Then we saw a 3-on-2 handicap match, the reuniting Rock and Sock Connection to take on Evolution's Ric Flair, Batista, and the Intercontinental Champion Randy Orton. Now, going into this match, several months, in June 2003, there was a feud between Orton and Mick Foley going on. At that time, Randy Orton was codenamed the Legend Killer, which I thought was a fantastic character for him. That character built him up to what he is today, the Viper, the Apex Predator. And it was just a really good feud going on. He was going around spitting in Legend's faces. He was slapping them. He was giving them the RKO. You know, they were really building him up good. And during this storyline, he was basically running down Mick Foley, you know, giving him a match. Then Foley lost. Then Foley came back and wanted another match, which he lost. I think he won, actually. I might be mistaken. And then pretty much, which led up to this match, he just got really beat down over the months. Decided to call his buddy Rock over in Hollywood to help have backup, which the payoff was that Evolution picked up the win via the RKO on Mick Foley. Now, give you a little brief history after this pay-per-view. WWE Hall of Fame class of the 2004. Yes, they did the Hall of Fame back in 2004. It just really wasn't aired on TV like it is today, where we get the 1 hour on USA or Spike. We get back then it was just all privately taped and just aired on at WrestleMania, just the brief highlights. We saw legends like Bobby the Brain Heenan, Harley Race, Superstar Billy Graham, Jesse the Body Ventura, Tito Santana, Greg the Hammer Valentine. We saw Big John Studd, Pete Rose, the first inductee into the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, the Magnificent One, Don Morocco, Junkyard Dog, and Sergeant Slaughter inducted into the 2004 Hall of Fame. Then we moved on to the first ever Playboy evening gown match between Sable, Tori Wilson to take on Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler, which Sable and Tori won because they were in Playboy. Not really going to cover much there. Just a feud between the four women was that Stacy and Miss Jackie were kind of jealous because the fact that Sable and Tori were getting so much media exposure and TV time because they were able to pose in a nice spread in Playboy, and pretty much they, thought that they were the two hottest divas in the WWE at the time, and they felt that they weren't getting the proper TV time and the proper chances that Sable and Tori were getting. So then after that, we saw a match. Saw a segment. Between Eddie Guerrero, the WWE champion, and Chris Benoit. Which this is where I'll tell you right now, Eddie Guerrero was one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. Well, not all of my all-time favorite. I have more, but he was one wrestler that really stood out to me, and his death really hit me hard. Just be like anyone's favorite wrestler who passed away hits them really hard. We saw Eddie try to fire up Chris because the Wolverine that Eddie knew was the one that he took on every night over in Japan and in WCW. And post-segment, Chris Benoit was amped up, was really fired up going into his match later on in the night. Then we saw the very first WWE Cruiserweight Championship, Cruiserweight Open. We saw Chavo Guerrero successfully defend against Nunzio, Jamie Noble, Tajiri and Akito, Funaki, Shannon Moore, Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio, and Billy Kidman. It was a fantastic match. During this time, Chavo Guerrero was built up as the Cruiserweight champion of the world, that he couldn't be beat. He was always using his father, Chavo Classic, to get wins and get over in the company as Cruiserweight champion. Little do we know, a couple of years later, they would scrap the Cruiserweight division and the Cruiserweight title just because there was no really division anymore. It was all split up between Raw and SmackDown, and there just wasn't really many Cruiserweights left. Then we moved into the match Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar with the special guest referee Stone Cold Steve Austin. This feud was built up at the Royal Rumble earlier in the year. Goldberg was being interviewed by Terry Runnels. I think it's Runnels. Terry was interviewing Goldberg, and basically was interrupted by Brock Lesnar saying that who cares about Goldberg? Brock Lesnar just went out there and defended his championship in the match of the night, building up, and then I guess Goldberg had some choice words for him, and Brock didn't like it. So when Goldberg came out in the Rumble, we saw Brock Lesnar F5 Goldberg over the top rope, eliminating Goldberg from the Royal Rumble and going on to main event WrestleMania. Then a couple of nights later on Monday Night Raw, Stone Cold walks into Goldberg's locker room and talks about the WWE SmackDown presents No Way Out pay-per-view and hands Goldberg a ticket, where Goldberg jumped the railing and actually screwed Brock Lesnar out of the championship by spearing him, which allowed Eddie Guerrero to pick up the win in his first WWE championship. And speaking of No Way Out, that is this DVD right here. Another one of my favorite Eddie Guerrero moments, where it was just so much animosity going into this match, so much buildup for Eddie Guerrero, just because the fact was that Eddie had overcome every demon and obstacle that was put in his way, whether it was painkillers, drugs, steroids, whatever have you. He overcame everything, and he was addicted to being the champion. That was his high, being champion. And this was a fantastic DVD, guys. If you are looking for a pay-per-view to pick up, the card wasn't really great, but if you're looking for one of those classic Eddie Guerrero moments, I implore you to pick this up. You could probably find it really cheap on Amazon or eBay, or maybe just go into your local FYE and see if they have it. This is No Way Out 2004, my favorite Eddie Guerrero match, next to the Kurt Angle one later of the night at WrestleMania 20. Which then the Brock Lesnar Goldberg feud was built up, where Brock Lesnar was saying, "Oh, I want Goldberg. Goldberg screwed me out of my title. Give me Goldberg at WrestleMania." And he got it. And Stone Cold was actually involved, because Stone Cold was known for being special enforcers and keeping the matches steady pace level, being an enforcer pretty much, keeping the wrestlers in line. And Brock went on to F5 Stone Cold. He went on to steal his ATV. And at this time, I think this was the very last pay-per-view we actually saw Brock Lesnar in the WWE, because not too long after his contract expired with the WWE, Brock went on to train with the Minnesota Vikings training camp for the NFL. Then we see Goldberg pick up the win. We see a fatal 4-way tag team championship match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Too Cool going in as champions, defending against Too Cool, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Rikishi, defending against the APA World's Greatest Tag Team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. Fantastic tag team. I don't know why they ever split those guys up. And the Basham Brothers. We saw Too Cool successfully retain. Then we see Women's Championship match. Loser loses her hair. We saw Victoria defend her WWE Women's Championship against Molly Holly and successfully retain, which caused Molly Holly to lose her hair. Following the next match, the feud leading up to this was not too long after Eddie won the WWE Championship. Kurt Angle was just starting his heel run, and he didn't like what Eddie Guerrero represented. He didn't want a drug abuser representing the company that he loves, the business that he so loves. And it was just a vicious back and forth feud, which led up to Eddie Guerrero defending the WWE Championship against Kurt Angle in a 5-star killer match. I mean, Eddie Guerrero is a fantastic, solid performer, and when you put him in the ring against an Olympic gold medalist, you know you're going to have a fantastic match, and that's what we got. I think this was probably the second match of the night. We saw Kurt Angle deliver some great spots, but Eddie Guerrero coined the phrase, "I lie, I cheat, and steal," and he cheated his way, where he faked a ankle injury to sucker in Kurt Angle by unlacing his boot. When Kurt went for the ankle lock and didn't let go, he kind of kicked the boot off, which knocked Kurt Angle back a couple of steps. And when Kurt Angle ran, Eddie Guerrero rolled Kurt Angle up in a small package. But little did the ref see, not only did Eddie roll up in a small package, but he also was able to wrap Kurt Angle's leg and his feet around the bottom rope, which allowed him to pick up the win. And it was a fantastic match, a second of my favorite Eddie Guerrero moments. Then we moved on to Kane versus The Undertaker, picking up the win, 12-0. I'm not going to go in much detail into that because we already know Undertaker still is still undefeated at WrestleMania at this current point in time. Then we saw the World Heavyweight Championship match. The World Heavyweight title was in its first ever triple threat main event. At this time, there was always just one-on-one matches and never triple threat matches for the World or the WWE Championship at the time. We saw Triple H defend against HBK and Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was involved in this match because he had won the 2004 Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels coming off of a loss at the Royal Rumble against Triple H in a last man standing match. Now, these two guys spent the bitter of 2002 and 2003 battling it out. Shawn Michaels and Triple H. They went hardcore match, no DQ matches. They went into elimination chambers where Shawn Michaels beat Triple H and four other guys for the World Heavyweight title back in Survivor Series of 2002. Then you had Shawn Michaels and Triple H for the world title at Armageddon 2002. And these guys really had a big feud going up, and Shawn Michaels kind of weaseled his way into this match because the fact was that he felt that he was just so close to ending the feud with Triple H, and he wanted to do it at WrestleMania. And he super kicked Chris Benoit and signed the contract, which Eric Bischoff later on, a couple of weeks later, or I think the following week on Raw, made the match a triple threat match where Triple H would defend against Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit. Now, this match was a phenomenal match, and I'm going to go on the record. I know a lot of people don't like the whole situation with Chris Benoit, and that's your right, and you're entitled to your opinion. I kind of always want to remember what Chris Benoit did inside the ring, even though the tragic events that happened. You can't take away the fact that Chris Benoit was one of the best technical wrestlers in wrestling since Bret Hart. He went on to win the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 20 and went on to feud with Triple H for better part of 2004 over the title. Shawn Michaels was kind of put down low into the mid-card for a little while during this year. And the overall look at this pay-per-view, the reason why I chose this pay-per-view was because Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle, both two of my favorite wrestlers, and then Chris Benoit and the triple threat match with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Again, another three of favorite. So in this whole entire card, you had five of my favorite wrestlers wrestling. And at the time, I was a John Cena fan when he won the United States Championship. All the way up until a little after WrestleMania 21, where he won the WWE Championship. But after that, I kind of fell off the John Cena bandwagon. But the overall reason why I like this pay-per-view so much was because there was so much build-up. I mean, it was 12 to 13 years in the business for Chris Benoit, and he had finally gotten to where he wanted to be, and that was on top of the world with the World Heavyweight Championship. The guy wrestled continent onto continent. He traveled the world and never grabbed that big brass ring. Even when he was in WCW, I don't believe he was a world heavyweight champion. So it was a really, really emotional pay-per-view, WrestleMania 20. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this WrestleMania Rewind review. Please stay tuned. Brian and I will be bringing more to you. Some of our favorite WrestleManias, and we will be reviewing them. The Super Bowl is a little over 45 minutes away. So, guys, have a great night.